Welcome to another Wellbeing Wednesday. I'm your host, Karen Keener of the Sovereign Mom, and we are talking about all things well-being today, but with a particular person in mind. Today, I'm interviewing Deanna Nichols, who is one of my health gurus, I would say. She got me into oils, which I thought was completely bullshit, but now I use them every single day of my life in multiple capacities and a whole bunch of other things. But today she's telling me about something new that she started trying to use for healing, a new healing tool, a new healing technology that has to do with frequencies. And I have no idea what it is. And so but it's working. And everything else this woman has told me about that's worked for her has worked for me too. So I am not going to ignore this. I'm going to find out all about it today and have her take me through a process of it to see so you can all see it demonstrated live for you. Welcome, Deanna.
Thank you. It's fun to be here. So, yeah, that was thank you for that introduction. I want to give just a little background so people understand. I think it helps to know what my background is, because it's not like my whole life I've been this like hippie crystal carrying sage burning lady. That's not who I am. And I think that's important because that kind of helps me to build trust with people who are coming from a skeptical standpoint, which is where I was. So, I mean, I spent about over 20 years very ill, but also searching and researching and trying a lot of things to try to get healthier. And of course, that journey led me to more alternative, holistic medicine away from Western medicine, because I tried that and that didn't get me where I was trying to go. And so in the process of that, I did all the things that you do. I changed my diet, I changed my body care products, I filtered my water. It's like a progression, and you open up your mind to things, and then you start to realize, like, I don't know about any of this stuff, and this isn't what I thought it was. And so I come from an extremely conservative Christian background. Like, I'm a preacher's kid. My husband's a preacher's kid from like a very think like the Duggars, if you know what that is. And
oh my God.
yeah, it's kind of like that.
Katie knows who the Duggars are.
Yes. And I also went to seminary. That's where I met my husband. So, okay, so that's an important distinction here, because you kind of are taught that anything that's not Western medicine is like new age. And for some reason you have to say it like that, or it's witchcraft, or it's demonic. I mean, all the labels. And so I just grew up with like a fear of all of those things. And I put all of those things into a category of like, these are all the same.
They're as all I started Satan, to Deanna, they're all from Satan.
Yes, exactly. And I mean, I just exude Satanism when you're around me. So obviously it makes sense that I would be. It's just so funny when someone accuses me of that, because I'm like, have you met me? That just doesn't really go with me at all. But I had to have a really, really big experience in order to get me to even look at this. Like, I'm like that. I need like a skywriter kind of a thing. Yeah. I need obvious messages. So what happened is somebody first introduced me to essential oils, which, like you, I thought that was just kind of frou-frou, woo-woo nonsense.
It makes your house smell good. Goodness gracious, it's a very expensive way to do it.
Yeah. Like, right. And so I just that was not on my radar at all. And what happened though is that it worked. Like, every time I used it, it worked. And it ended up, I'm not saying like doTERRA essential oils is the thing that got me healthy, but it absolutely like turned something on in my body that wasn't there before. And I now understand what that is. At the time I was teaching everybody, it's because these oils have this chemical constituent in them, and it does this and this and this. And it does do that. But essential oils work two different ways. And that second way, I started hearing people talk about it, and I was like, they're a weirdo. I remember like I started to get into this world of essential oils, and then people would say stuff to me like, well, you can just wear the oil around your neck, like in a necklace. And I'm like, so you can breathe it in? Oh no, you don't have to like smell it or anything. You just need the frequency. And I'm like, what? And then I started having people tell me like, when you go to your oil box, like if one sort of jumps out at you, like an oil fell off of my shelf and that meant I was supposed to use it. And I'm just like, okay, this is not scientific, you guys. So I can't do that. Like, I need everything to be in a square box. And so what happened to me that really opened my eyes to a different way of thinking about this was I was in a serious car accident in 2017,
Yeah.
and I had a traumatic brain injury. I
Let me
don't really,
explain. Like when she says serious accident, she had to have the jaws of life remove her from
yeah,
a vehicle, and she was like
yeah,
gone for a minute or two. I don't know.
yeah,
Like she was
yeah,
gone. Yeah.
yes. And so in the course of that somewhere, and I'm going to say that God did this because I have no explanation because my brain wasn't. Karen even says like I had all these conversations with you and I don't even remember
Well, you
any
saw
of
like
it. So
angels and shit. So
yeah, 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 there was a lot. But I don't really remember much about the experience. And so I have no idea how I came to this conclusion. But I was in Tennessee and my husband said, we tried, we saw neurologists, we saw everybody. They're like, this is as good as it's getting for you. This is how your brain's going to work for the rest of your life. They basically, we're done with you.
and that at that time I spoke to you on the phone and you were like repeating things that
Yeah.
you didn't realize you'd already said, and there was like a lot of memory, and it was kind of like talking to Dory and Finding Nemo. So like short-term
Yes,
memory loss was major for you at that
exactly. Exactly.
time.
And yeah. And so
Not that
my
it was
husband
funny at
said
all.
like,
I felt like major. It was
no,
like it was, but there was clearly, it was evident that you're not who you are today. So it was,
no, that's yeah. And there's like huge sections of time that are still unaccounted for in my brain. And so that it was a serious thing. And so what happened is my husband just said to me one day, he's like, who do you know that can like fix your brain with like holistic medicine? And I don't even know where it came from because I didn't even, there were days I woke up in bed next to my husband and thought he was some kind of a like person who snuck in and was trying to assault me. Like I did not know who he was.
okay.
And so I said someone's name to him and told him where that person was located. And I had never met this person. And I had one 5-minute conversation with this person 5 years or something before.
Okay.
So he took me to see this person.
Okay.
And she comes out. I'm thinking I'm going to a doctor's office. She comes out in these like tie-dye pants and like long color, like colored streaks in her hair. And she takes me to a yurt. And there's like tapestries and feathers and like all, and I'm just like, okay, what is happening? But I just felt like I was in the right place. I don't know, I just felt like I'm in the right place. And the more that I was there in that first session with her, the more I knew two things. We were supposed to always know each other, and I needed to know what she knew, and she needed to know what I knew. Like I knew that we needed to like somehow integrate. After that first session with her, I went home and I drove my car. And when I say that I went home and drove my car, my car was obviously, totaled. I didn't own another car. If I saw a Ford Explorer, I would have a full panic attack.
Yeah.
I tried to get behind the wheel before and I had a
You wouldn't
full
drive.
panic
I know
attack.
you weren't driving. You were just not
No,
ever. Yeah. Okay.
And so I bought a car because I figured if I buy a car, then I'll start driving. So I went and picked out a car. I had a custom color, like I ordered a purple car,
I
which is
remember
my
all
favorite
this.
color. And when I signed the papers on the car, they handed me the keys, and all of a sudden I went, I can't drive this home. And the car guy's like, what? And I'm like, can you drive this home for me? Home for me was 2 hours away, by the way, because I had to go somewhere special to get this special color car. And he looked at me like, why did you buy a car if you can't drive? And then I told him, and he was like, he had great compassion and kindness. He was like, I'll drive the car to your house for you. So I went to buy a car thinking I'm going to drive it home because there's like two, my husband and I drove together in his car. I couldn't drive home. So I had one session with her and I'm like, John, I want to try to drive the car today. And he was just like, are you kidding me? I mean, it was like 10 minutes on a backcountry road, but I did it. And every time I would have a session with her, I would have these massive breakthroughs. At the same time, I was seeing another type of holistic practitioner, and he had me on this like long-term program where you make payments and you have like 3 visits a week and you get all these different therapies. And one of the injuries that I had was I had broken my foot in multiple places because of how I was crushed in the car and how they removed me. It caused multiple breaks to my foot. All of those breaks were completely healed. Like I've been to multiple orthopedic doctors. I couldn't put any weight on that foot, even though it was allegedly completely healed. There was nothing wrong with it.
Was that the same time that you were out in Salt Lake and you had the cane for a while, or was that?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I had
Okay.
a walker for a while. I had a knee.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had all kinds of medical
Yeah.
equipment. I was a nightmare. Yeah, so I couldn't bear any weight on that foot. And I went to a session with her, and one session with her, and she did a tuning fork on
Yeah, I know
some,
what that
and
is.
I was like, what in the crap is she even doing? I didn't understand it. And do you know that I got up and I walked on that foot and I never had another piece of pain in that foot ever again? And I had an appointment after her appointment to go see the guy that had been working on my foot for 6 months with like every kind of freaking therapy you can think of. And he watched me get out of the car to walk in. And I thought he was going to be like, oh my gosh, what happened to your foot? And instead he got this look on his face like, there goes all the dollar signs. And I learned a very important lesson that day, that healing doesn't have to take a long time. I'm not saying that healing's necessarily linear. Like,
So
it's
do you
definitely
now ask oils to jump off shelves for you, Deanna?
I'm going to be honest with you. I stand in front of my shelf and ask, what oil does your body need right now, Deanna? Like, I seriously am that lady now.
Yeah.
And the thing is because I have seen it so many times, I've seen it work. So how I used to use essential oils before is somebody would come to me with like high blood pressure, and I would say, oh, you need a vasodilator. These are the vasodilator oils.
Yes.
Oh, you have
yes.
a virus. You need an antiviral. You have gunk in your chest. You need an expectorant. That's how I did oils. I don't do that very much. Now I'm like, oh, they're having lots of issues in their like solar plexus. And so they need this color. The oil needs to be this color. And so which one of this color would best be in their highest and greatest good? And that's the kind of stuff I do now. And like not 5 years ago, but like 8 to 10 years ago, I would have thought that person was insane. And I would have not even wanted to be their friend, because I just thought that was just crazy. So what I've come to learn is, and I'm going to try to oversimplify it. Well, I've learned humility for sure. And guess what? I'm not done learning that. I need to learn that a lot all the time. But I learned that I don't know everything, and that everybody from every walk of life has something to teach me, even if I don't agree with them. There's always something to learn from people. And if you just decide like, I don't like what you look like or sound like, or what your belief system is, and so therefore I'm just going to block you out of my life, you miss out on all this knowledge that could be yours. Like, you don't have to use that knowledge the same way they do, but that knowledge is going to only benefit you. Like, there's nothing you can learn that's going to be like, oh no, my life's ruined because I know this, like, knowledge is always good. And so then you take that knowledge and you apply wisdom and discretion. And for me, I'm a very spiritual person. So, I mean, I ask God to guide me as well, and his wisdom. So these are all ways that so basically what I'm saying is like, if you are a Christian or a skeptic, I'm the perfect person to teach you about this topic, because I was like firmly in both of those camps. And I would say I'm like the least likely person to become an energy practitioner that you will ever meet, in all seriousness. And my circle of influence is extremely conservative Christians, mostly because of my background. And I have been able to like share this with them and open their world up in a way that I don't think they wouldn't trust someone else to do. And I take that very seriously. Like, as an energy worker, I feel like I'm bonding with you in a way that is pretty intimate when I do this type of work. And so I don't take advantage of that. I take it very seriously. And I just feel like honored that these people trust me enough to allow me to do that, because my credibility is just like something that I've worked hard to earn in this field of wellness. So that being said, I'm going to boil this down for you. Then I'm going to show you like what this device is that I have, and why I have the device, and why you should either consider possibly getting yourself one, or having a relationship with someone who has one, because I'm going to just show you, like me, for example. Hey, guess what? You could use me. So and this is, I know it's oversimplified. So if you are like if you have like a PhD in quantum physics, I am so sorry, but I'm just going to talk to everybody like on this level so we can all grasp this. So my way of explaining this, and you have to keep in mind my background too, okay, and my main demographic, but my way of describing this is like, everything that God created has like his signature, kind of like if you buy a piece of art and that artist signs it. And the way God signs everything is with a frequency. Okay. So everything has a frequency. And if you don't believe that, it's kind of like saying you don't believe in gravity and then you just go jump off a building. You are still subject to that law, even if you don't believe it. Right. It's just a natural law of the universe. And it's the same way with frequencies. But a really cool way to see it is if you look up, like, people have recorded like water being exposed to frequencies, like music.
Yes.
And people have recorded plants like singing when they get watered or when you are like paying attention to them. It's so, so cool.
Yeah.
And it opens up like this whole new world for you, because what I've realized is that if I'm operating at certain frequencies, other things that feel, there's certain things that feel comfortable. Okay, so you'll know what I mean. Have you ever gone somewhere for the first time? Somebody invited you to go somewhere and you walk in there and you're just like, this isn't for me. Like you just know immediately that it's not your vibe. And you even might say that it's not your vibe. I'm not vibing. And you don't even know about why you're saying that. You're like saying that the vibration in here is the vibration in me, and the vibration in here is in conflict for some reason. That doesn't mean theirs is wrong and yours is right.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And so what I've realized is during COVID, one of the things I wanted to add to my tool belt is I wanted to be able to help people clear like viruses and parasites and all those types of things from their system. And I do most of my work remotely, by the way. Like I don't normally put my hands on people. So it was like perfect. That was a perfect time in history for me to like learn how to do remote energy work, because most people were kind of staying to themselves. And so anyway, so I started learning how to do that. And what I learned was open my eyes to a whole new world, because I learned that the thing that normally will cause a virus, for example, to be uncomfortable in your body is if you change the frequency in that part of your body where it's like hanging out. But if you keep on operating at the same frequency, this virus could hang out there for years and years and years and years. It doesn't mean you'll have a fever or you'll be vomiting. It just means that it's there hanging out and it's ready to rear its ugly head, and it can be causing issues in your body that don't necessarily scream virus to you. Like somebody can come to me with elbow pain or knee pain or something, and they think I'm going to do a muscular correction, and I might. I do muscular corrections and spinal corrections and all that, but like oftentimes I like to go deep and see like where's this really coming from. And so there are different modes that I use, and I'm going to show you one. This is parasite mode. It's hard to see with my light, but like basically you're just making a fist, but you're touching your pinky and your thumb together. And if I put somebody in parasite mode like that, and I'll ask, with their permission, obviously, I can't just go around like climbing into people's, bodies and psyches. I have to get their permission. Okay. So once I have someone's permission, then I go in and I just ask like, is there a parasite involved in this problem they're having? And if I get a yes on that, then the next thing I do is I have like a list of parasites that I can go through.
Got a yes? Tell me.
So I hesitate to even say this because there are so many people, and I don't want to name any certain professions because I don't want to alienate people, but there is a certain profession that you can go to them and they really want to sell you like a certain vitamin line that they sell, or that is their vitamin line. And so they'll just do this little thing to your hand, like, and tell you, oh yeah, you need this vitamin.
Right.
So I just want to say, I want to take a quick time out and say for the record, I'm not saying everyone who does that is manipulating you. And I'm not saying that they're not trained, but like, if they're not a kinesiologist, like a trained kinesiologist, they're like another profession and they're doing that. They took like a little seminar for maybe like an hour or something from somebody, probably from that vitamin company who wanted to help them sell more vitamins.
Their bias. So you're talking about muscle testing, and their bias could be influencing how hard they're pressing on you. So
there's that. There's the fact that you have no idea. You have no idea what results they got. No, that's true. And you don't really have any way of knowing what results they got either, because you don't know what it means. And worst of all, this muscle is a gallbladder muscle. And for some reason, somebody decided that that's how we were going to universally muscle test the whole earth. And do you know how many people are having some level of dysfunction of the gallbladder at any given moment?
Probably everybody right now, with all of the shit in the atmosphere and our water and our food.
So it's I sort of cringe. But on the other hand, I don't want to discourage I'm a person who believes that the average person can be empowered to take care of their own stuff, and that you don't have to hire a professional to do everything for you. I'm a very DIY type of a person. And so there are things that you can learn how to do, but you have to understand that at some point you're beyond your capabilities and knowledge, for one. And secondly, when I'm like feeling crappy and sick, I don't muscle test myself.
Okay.
Because lots of factors go into that, hydration, all kinds of things go into like what your answers are. So there's a lot of stuff that a trained professional will do to make sure that they're getting accurate information. Okay. So without going into a whole seminar on muscle testing, take my word for it that I've muscle tested at this point, and I've gotten a legitimate hit that you have parasites. And then I have a list of like viruses, parasites, chemical inhalants, body care ingredients. Like I have a list of like pretty much everything on the planet, and I can go through and find out what parasite you have. Here's why I'm getting to this. The next question that I'm going to ask is, can I clear this parasite? Can I, Deanna Nichols, can I clear this parasite for this person? If I get yes, then I ask, what can I use? Now, I know how to do a lot of different things, right?
Right.
So I can ask, like, is there essential oils? Now, I'm going to park here for a quick second, because remember, I told you I used an essential oil like a scientist before. Okay. Well, kind of like a doctor, really, and how they prescribe medicine. That's how I was using oils, which is still very Western medicine influenced. Eastern medicine works differently and comes from a completely different ideology and completely different like premises. So when you come at it from that direction, what you're asking the essential oil to do, the job you're hiring it for, is not its chemical constituents, but its vibrations,
right?
The frequency of that oil. And so I don't have to put that oil on you, Karen, for you to get the benefits. I can literally broadcast the frequency of that oil to you.
Okay.
Or I, on your behalf, if I'm working on my body as a proxy for you, I can apply it to myself and it will benefit you. But I'm not asking, I don't normally use the oil in my mouth. I don't normally even necessarily use it on my skin. I'm using it sometimes like around me, or sometimes I'm tracing, like this is, it's hard to see from this angle, but like if I trace this set of meridians,
yes.
I'm hitting 3 different meridians there. But let's say that I'm having a hormonal imbalance. One of those meridians would be that specific meridian that comes down here and goes down through the middle finger is your circ-sex meridian. So it covers like circulatory and reproductive hormones and all that kind of stuff. So if you're having an issue there, and let's say you have a parasite that's hanging out in that meridian, we always think parasites hang out in your intestines, and that's why they get missed a lot. You might even do like a fecal test or something and think, oh, I'm clear, I don't have parasites. They can hang out like literally anywhere in your body, and they will hang out wherever they feel like they're comfortable, wherever they can take off their shoes and kick back and have a Budweiser, or maybe not a Budweiser, I don't know.
Whatever they're telling you to eat today.
Yeah. And then when you change up,
crave.
Yes. And when you go in there and you change the music in their little hangout, and you change you turn the thermostat up a couple degrees, and you bring in some like a totally different generation of people to hang out in there, they're going to walk in and be like, whoa, this ain't my bar anymore. Like, I'm out.
Yeah.
And that's what we're doing when we change frequencies. And so essential oils can change frequencies, but that's not always what I get. Okay. And I know that's going to shock some people who know me as like the doTERRA lady, but like, it's not always, oils are not the answer to everything. They're usually part of the answer, but they're not the answer to everything. I use a lot of tuning forks because, I had a very profound experience as we covered. And so I have different sets of tuning forks, and they all have a different frequency measurement. And so if you find out like what frequency you need, I can hit the tuning fork and I can trace that meridian, or I can hold it on a point, kind of like an acupuncture point of that meridian. And sometimes I get light as a correction. I have this really cool light pen. I don't know if you can see that, but there's all these different vials, and these vials have just plant material, crushed up plant material in them. And they're color coded to like, if you're having an issue with like your liver, your kidneys, you're probably going to be in the yellow family, so my point is, even if you don't know all the things I know, you can learn some really basic things, and you can be pretty close, to handling it yourself. And then if you're out of your realm, then you get a professional. But like, you just kind of screw this in there, and then you can either hold this on a acupuncture point, or you can trace the meridian. Okay. So these are all kind of complex for somebody who doesn't know all this stuff. Like, how do you get an answer? How do you know what the correction is? How do you blah, blah, blah. Okay. So what I love about this device that I've started using is that anybody can use it, and you don't even have to know what you're doing. Like if you can read and press a button and you have access to like a Bluetooth device, like your phone, I have a special phone that I put it on. You don't need a special phone. You can use your own phone. But I did that because I'm running programs on people and I don't want to have to like tie up my phone all day and drain my battery and all of that. But the reason why I looked at the device is because like a session with me, like if I'm going to sit here and I'm going to do like, I'm going to map out your whole body and figure out where all of your energetic blocks are. If I'm going to do that, that's like a 2-hour session. It's like $300. And I'm not saying you shouldn't do that, but that's not in everyone's price range. Mm-hmm. You can't just, give me your insurance card and pay a $35 copay. Like it doesn't work like that. So I wanted to make something like this reachable for anybody, but also like my time would still be compensated for, right? I mean, because I'm spending 2 hours, I need to be compensated. So when I found this device, it was because I was at an event and here I am, like I can do work on myself, but I was at an event and I had traveled there and I woke up in the morning with a migraine and like vomiting, dehydration. There was a girl staying with me that I didn't know. She was like a friend of a friend and she was staying with us in this Airbnb house. And she had this device and she pulled it out and she's like, I can run this Healy on you. I'm like, what is that? And she's like, it's a frequency device. It's like a biometrics, whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah. Because I've used other things like Quest and Zyto and different things in different doctor's offices. And back a couple years ago, I got Lyme disease really bad. And one of the biggest things that I did to heal from that is I used a machine called Quest, which is very similar. It's like a practitioner, like a doctor's office version of what I'm going to show you is like a regular person version.
Okay.
And my doctor actually has that in her office. She's integrated, so she takes insurance and you pay like $35 and you get a scan and then she'll program a crystal with your frequencies or homeopathic drops with your frequencies. And so I'm like talking to my mom, okay, my preacher's wife mom, right? And I'm telling her about this and she's like, what? That doesn't make any sense. And I'm like, well, you take homeopathics, right? She's like, yeah, what does that have to do with anything? I'm like, you're taking frequencies. She's like, no, you're taking like if you have an allergy to ragweed, you're taking like little bits of ragweed. I'm like, Mom, that's saline, honey. Like if you take those drops to a lab, they're going to tell you it's 100% like saline. There's nothing in that.
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you talking about? I'm taking these substances. I'm like, no, you're not. You're taking the frequency of that substance programmed into those drops. So
the spirit
I don't
of
know
the
how many
plant
people.
is healing you.
Yes. So I don't know how many other people don't realize that they're already you're participating in frequencies already. You just don't realize it. Like you're using oils because you can understand, the chemistry, like my stomach hurts and I put digestin on it. You understand that. But what you don't realize is like you're getting the frequency of your digestive system to change is why that's working. It's one of the reasons it's working. Okay. So that being said, I had this profound experience with the Healy and I looked at the price of it compared to like multi-tens of thousands of dollars on the Quest machine. And the fact that like, it's this big old giant thing you have to hold and all this nonsense. And this is my Healy. It's like this big. Okay. And the price point, I mean, it's still expensive, but the price point is way more within reach. So if I am running a frequency on somebody, if I'm running a Healy on someone else, I don't need to charge them enough to like pay myself back for a $20,000 piece of equipment. I'm really only trying to cover the cost of my machine and then the cost of the crystal to send to them if they decide they want that. Why would you want that? Okay. So if Karen, if you say like, hey, Deanna, I'm really struggling with, pain in my neck. And I'm like, okay, let's run a Healy program on you and see if we find anything. Now, because I'm an energy practitioner, I can get really, really, really specific in what I want the Healy to do. But if you don't know anything, you can just use your brain. You can look through the different programs and you're having pain. Guess what? There's a thing called pain. And then you look at it. Is it localized pain? Is it like systemic pain? It's pretty like basic for the most part. For me, I'll ask questions to lead me in the right direction. And that is what I'm saying is kind of the difference between why do you bring in a practitioner if you can do this yourself? It's just they can get deeper into the root cause of it for you. But if you're just like, I'm having a migraine and I want it to go away and I don't give a crap why I'm having a migraine, I just need to like adult today, you can pull out the Healy yourself, or you can get somebody like me to run the Healy. Now, if you get somebody like me to run it versus you running it, you're probably going to get better results just because I can pinpoint things a lot better. But well, let's say your migraine goes away because we ran a Healy. Okay. What if you're like, I feel like I keep getting these migraines and I wish I wouldn't keep getting them. what we could do is we could program the frequencies that I used to help relieve your migraine. We could program those into a crystal. You
Ooh,
you
you cut
can
off.
wear it, and you're going to be exposed to that frequency regularly. Did you miss me there for a second?
Yeah, I think
Okay.
you said
So I can give
you
you a one.
program it into the crystal and then you wear it, and then what?
Yes, then you're exposed on for a longer period of time to that frequency.
Okay.
And it's easy to fall back into like old patterns, especially if you've been doing that for a long time, or if you're eating something that's causing that, or you're in an environment that you can't leave from, like a job that you're in, or a relationship at home, like one of your kids is triggering whatever emotion, and that's causing this frequency that's allowing the migraine to like fester and to keep cropping up. So if you have the crystal, then you can be exposed to that frequency that your body really needs to kind of make a long-term change. And that's what I was saying when I had the Lyme disease. I was doing oils. I was also getting vitamin IVs, but she would also run that machine on me and give me a crystal. And I would notice right around the 3 to 4 week point, I would be like, I don't feel as well. And I would go back in and she would run the program and program my crystal back. So I've noticed it kind of holds a charge roughly 3 to 4 weeks. But I mean, that's way better than like having to go for like how many visits back to I got to keep going back to my doctor and paying another fee, or go to my energy practitioner and pay them another $300 every, So this is like, to me, I wanted to make healing accessible and affordable to the average person. And I wanted to make it clear that like, you can change and shift something in a relatively short period of time that other people are telling you it's going to take you, 10 weeks, 3 visits a week, $150 a pop. And I'm not saying that those people are necessarily just bilking you for your money and aren't trying to help you. But the temptation as a practitioner can truly become like, I really need to have $150 a week for 10 weeks to pay my bills. And so I'm trying to sell this package to you. And my thing is like, energy work is something that I do because I want to help people. It's not like my career. And so I have the luxury of like, I have another way of earning income. And so my theory is like, I don't really have time to do this work, and I don't want you to come to me 3 times a week. I want you to feel better, and like, I don't want to see you for this problem again. I want to give you the tools at home to like continue. And so that's why I like the crystal, because I know that like in 3 or 4 weeks, you might call me back and say, hey, can you recharge my crystal for me? And guess what? Karen, you live really far from me. If I program a crystal and I send it to you in the mail and you wear it, you can call me and your crystal's now programmed. Like, I record your crystal's signature, energetic signature, into my system. And then I can pull it up and I can send the frequencies to your crystal. Or I can run the Healy program on you from wherever you are. So the reason I finally bit the bullet and decided to buy it is because, well, first of all, I knew the technology worked. I'd used it in another thing, right? So I already believed in it. But the reason I decided to buy this one is because my brother has stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And he was really struggling, like all the things that I would normally tell somebody to do when they're sick, he was struggling to do any of them because he couldn't even like keep anything down at all. Like, he couldn't take a sip of water. Right. And I mean, every smells were bothering him. So there was none of the things I could normally do were accessible. And so I thought, like, this is perfect for somebody in that situation because I can run frequencies. And so I went to Michigan. I programmed him because I had just got it like right before I left to go see him. I put him in the system. I put like my whole family in the system because I was there and we did it. I gave him a crystal. And now, like, whenever he's having a rough day, because my mom's basically his full-time caretaker right now, she'll message me and she's like, he's having this really bad pain in his hip. Can you run a pain program on him? I'm like, absolutely. This is going on. Can you run a program on him? And sometimes, like, while he's sleeping, I'll run something. But so it's been beautiful. The other thing that it's been amazing for is just sleep in general. I've been struggling with sleep ever since 2020. Like, I struggled really, really badly, and then it got a lot better. I changed some things and it's been better this year, but it's still a rough spot for me. And sometimes I'll just lay there till like 2 or 3 in the morning and like I can't go to sleep. And of course it affects my health, right? Yeah. Yes. And so I started running a sleep program on myself, and then I would like do the program on myself, and then I would run it on my husband. And he is the most skeptic. Like, everybody in the planet will tell me that's amazing, that's so great, and he'll be like, that doesn't do anything. So he's like the most skeptical person ever. And he would say like, he's like, I don't know what you did with that Healy thing, but like, I cannot remember the last time I slept that well. And I can't remember waking up feeling this good in the morning. And so I was like, that's pretty cool. And then one of my friends who has the Healy, she's like, Deanna, you don't need to run a separate program on you and your husband. She's like, do a sleep program, put this on your headboard, and then run the frequency for everybody in your bed. Do you know that my cat now knows when I'm running the Healy, and he comes in there and he sits like beside it on the bed because I'm running it for me and John, and he comes and sits beside it. A couple nights ago, I set the Healy down, and then I was doing something, and I looked over and I couldn't find the Healy. He had laid on top of it, like, and he did it on purpose because he doesn't lay up at the top of the bed at all. He only sleeps by our feet. If you try to pick him up and like hug him, he's like, no, I just want to lay at your feet. The only time he lays up there is when the Healy's running. You can't tell me he doesn't know that. And cats are very energetic, by the way. They can give us frequencies like crazy with their purring or just like sharing their like electrons that they get. They are like a healing animal in the first place. So I think he like somehow knows that that's helping him. So I am like 100% down with Healy, and I promise you, I run it on myself every single day. My husband could tell, and I feel like he's got more stories too, because he doesn't even know all the things I know, but he just knows like, oh, Deanna's having a bad night. And he'll turn it on and run it on me on my behalf. And then I'll be like, man, I slept really good. Yeah, I put the Healy on you at like 1 o'clock in the morning because you were flapping around, tossing and turning and disrupting my sleep. So I just turned it on, put it on you. And so I've run it on my farm animals. I've run it on other people's farm animals when they have like an injured animal. I even ran it on my cow when she was in labor because she was struggling. And I ran a program on her, and they have an animal program, and it came up something about like suffering and ligaments and stuff. And when I saw what came up, I was like, you can't make this up. Like, and shortly after she had her calf naturally with no intervention. And so anyway, I just like think it's super cool. So what I think we can do is maybe just do like a demonstration, if that's okay, of how it works.
Yay, I would love that. That's cool.
Okay, so I call this my Healy phone because like that's pretty much what I use it for. And there's 2 different Healy programs on here. Okay. So there's one the pink one you can see at the bottom. Okay. So the pink one is like, if I'm going to run it on myself or the person who's sitting in front of me, if they're there in the room and they're going to wear the device, that's what that's for. There's another one that's like white right here. That's for remote Healy. That's like what I'm going to do right now for you, Karen. Okay. I can run the Healy on people who aren't there. And they're not obviously able to wear this. And so they're getting broadcasted the frequencies to them. And so how it works is you have to put the person in there first, which I already took the liberty of doing. I obviously knew that we were going to do this. So I put you in there because I had your permission. Yeah. So you just have to turn on your Wi-Fi and Bluetooth so that you can connect to the device. And if anybody's wondering this, because this is like the first question I asked,
I have to.
You don't have to sit here and
Bluetooth or
no. Oh, okay. No, if I'm running this,
okay,
that's what I have to do. And the question that came to my mind immediately was like, yeah, but I don't want like EMFs. Yeah. Like I don't want that like sitting on my body. You don't have to leave it on. Once you send the program to the device, then you can turn it off. Okay. So you're not getting EMFs. And I know that lots of people are probably thinking that in their mind because I was. Yeah. Okay. So what you do is you go in here and you can program a client in here. So I have like all of my list of all my clients. Okay. I'm trying to get out of the light so you can see. So everybody's in here. And the cool thing is that you can actually put GPS coordinates in here. Okay. So like you can run a GPS, you can run frequencies on like your property. I definitely do that. I have my farm in here. You can run frequencies on an item, like a plant. There's even a whole plant program. Like if you have a garden and you don't know what's going on, why your plant is unhappy, you can run frequencies on your plant. We've already established that that's a thing. Like you can watch it in action. People have figured out a way to show proof it's working. Of course, most of my people in here, most of my customers are either people or people's crystal. Okay. So I put you in here, but I could if you had a crystal, or if I programmed a crystal for you, I would put Karen Keener's crystal. Okay, cool. Because sometimes I'm not running it on you, I'm running it and programming it into your crystal. Does that make sense? Okay, so what we're going to do is run it on you. So I have you in here. And you basically just need like a photo of the person and then some personal information. So like their location.
Here I
And
am.
then it's important to choose male or female just because like some programs are it's gonna search for specific things that are related to your gender. So we put that in there.
What?
And
Are
then
you assuming my gender?
no, not at all. Not me. I would never presume to do anything that crazy. No. And so I've got you in here, and now I'm going to save and analyze. So I'm going to analyze you. And again, like if I don't know anything, if I'm just a regular person that doesn't know anything about this type of medicine, then I can just look for what I know is the problem. Okay. So tell me an area or a situation with your body that you're like, this is
Okay.
not cool and I'd like to change it.
Okay. This is the second time in a short, like in a week and maybe a week and a half, we got back from Idaho and I just woke up dizzy the next day. And today I woke up really dizzy also. So it's a very weird, like I've never had this before where it's just like I'm kind of dizzy all day and
Okay. So so I mean that's a little bit less specific than like if somebody said, hey, I'm having knee pain or something.
okay.
So I still have to use a little bit of my brain, but like there's a bunch of suggestions already here. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm gonna click on here to see what the database has. So here are some things, like I'll read some things and you tell me if anything pops up in your mind. So she's talking about like equilibrium, dizziness, whatever, vertigo, any of those kind of things. So I'm just going to mention like there's bioenergetic. So like things in your environment that could be affecting you. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
There's also nutrition. So a lot of times things like that can come from mineral deficiencies, dehydration, like lack of electrolytes. So that's a possibility in my mind. There's also a mental balance program that has a lot of stuff to do with like the brain, the nervous system. So that's another one. And then there's just like there's like well-being, there's general programs. Okay. So if you aren't exactly sure, and there's like a lot of different possibilities and you don't know how to muscle test. Okay.
Yeah. I
Which
think
I
it
can
would be
absolutely
down to
teach.
like two. I could probably say it's
Okay.
the brain thing and the environment
Okay.
thing are probably the
Okay,
two
so let's check. So let's check. So let's say there's two things you're trying to decide between. How do you decide if you don't know how to muscle test or you don't trust your muscle testing results? So, and you don't want to just do this to yourself. I'm really not trying to make fun. It's just
don't touch
it's
myself.
it bothers me. Okay, so we're gonna look at mental balance for a second. And what we're gonna do is there's a button here that says start analysis. And if you were holding this, you would put your fingerprint on here. If it's me running it on you, I'm going to use my fingerprint and I'm going to proxy for you.
Okay.
So I ask myself, do I have permission to act as Karen's fingerprint? And I muscle test with one hand sometimes. And if I get this, that's a yes. If that's a no. So then what you're looking for is when the results come up, you want to make sure the top number is like above 60%. If the top number is not above 60%, you probably haven't hit the right thing. If it's like 40% on the top one came up with inner strength system. The next one is like just a little bit less percent feel good system. So there's explanations for what each of these is, okay? But just off the top of your head, like contentment, well-being, emotional well-being, these are all things that came up and they all have pretty high percentages. So I would say this is a good program to run because two of your answers were above 60%. So that's like, if I ran one that was a lower percent, it would still benefit you, but it's probably not what you most need to change how you're feeling right now. Okay. So let's run this program on you. So what do we do? So what we need to do is we need to click actions and then we're going to tell it to vibrate. And we're going to choose how much time we want to do it for. Now, again, if you're not a person who does muscle testing and you're doing this yourself, you're just going to kind of guess or go with your intuition a little bit like you just did. You kind of were like, yeah, I feel like it's this or this. So there's anything from like 1 minute, or excuse me, 1 second, all the way up to 8 hours. Or manually, you can type in an amount. So let's just say you're like, okay, I'm getting ready for work after leaving 30 minutes. I'm going to run. Oh, look, there's a 26-minute program. Okay. So obviously we're not going to sit here for 8 hours and do a demonstration. So why don't I just do like a 1 minute, 20-second program, which is what it kind of defaults to, if you can see that little dot. And then I tell it, okay, that's cool. We're going to do it for 1 minute. And then I tell it to start. And what you'll see is you'll see that it's now running frequencies. Okay.
Okay.
Now, if you were here, and there are certain things that, if you have the option to do it in person, it makes more sense to do it in person. Like if you have an injury, they electrodes. Okay. And what you can do is, instead of this device, I can remove this device and I can plug the electrodes in and use these little stickers, and I can put it where the pain is. So if somebody's having lower back pain, I can literally put it alongside their spine, and I can run it on, and I can run the localized pain program on that. So do you kind of see that? Or I'm trying to think of another time that I've wanted to use the electrodes. Maybe for a migraine, like my migraine comes from back here. So I'm going to put the electrodes back on the back of my neck. So kind of in those situations. But I will tell you that I have run this on people that are having pain, and they still tell me that they have good results. So a lot of times, if somebody hires me to do an energy session, like these 2-hour energy sessions that I do, where I'm like digging into I'm looking for foods that are triggering you, and vitamin deficiencies, and mineral deficiencies, and vaccines that could be affecting you, and viruses, and and I'm digging really deep. You know what I do? And I have found that I get such better results is I run this program in the background during the session. So it's like I'm doing the work of a human, but I have the artificial intelligence that's also doing its job. And I think both are valuable because this machine can cover a lot more in a shorter period of time than me having to sit there and ask each individual question. But on the other hand, I can critically think, and I can have a conversation with you. And I have an intake form that you filled out that tells me a little bit about like your life experience. And I also have like my wisdom and intuition, and you can't put that into a machine. I don't care what Bill Gates says, like you just can't do that. And so I do think it is valuable to have a human being that can kind of like put pieces of the puzzle together. And that's actually something that I've always been good at. It's just like, I kind of know what I'm dealing with, like somebody walks up to me and says, this is going on. And I'm like, I really think that you have like a nerve issue that's affecting your pelvic floor. And that's why you have low back pain. And they're like, what? Oh, well, I don't know how I know. I just know, but like, let's muscle test and find out to confirm. And that's how I roll. You can't get that from a machine, right? If you don't ask the right question of the machine, you may not get the same answer, right? Because like, you don't know to look for that. I know things from my experience of being a practitioner, working on a lot of people, healing myself from decades of illness. I know things. So there's a benefit to both. But I feel like if I can run a program on you and I can do my work at the same time, like the benefits are amazing. So if something like mental balance came up for you as the program, I would also ask, like, is there anything she can do at home, like to continue in this path of healing that this is kind of opening up that she needs? And I would ask, like, are there essential oils that she could use? Because that's something that anybody can get their hands on. Like, you may not be able to go out. I mean, you could go out and buy tuning forks, but then what would you do with them? I can tell you that you can't get this pen. It's like, this is not even mine. I like stole it from my friend because I can't even buy it. But I like it better than she does. But so there's some tools you don't have access to, but essential oils are like accessible. Homeopathic remedies, like you can go online and buy those. So I will test you for things like, is there an essential oil? So I'll do it right now so you can just kind of see. So since we're looking at sort of like emotional things is kind of what came up today, I actually have an emotion mode that I can use. And I can say, is there a specific emotion? I'm getting no. Is there an oil that will help to solidify the work that we did with Healy today? So if I get a yes, then the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check the emotions oils. There's like an actual line of oils that are for chakras. I don't know if you can see the colors, but don't tell my Christian friends, but they literally are, I'm just joking, but they literally are color coded for the chakras. So, I mean, if I had to guess, I would say we're probably, we're likely to fall under green or yellow in your case, but I don't know that for sure. So I will ask that. Okay. So I'll ask, like, is one of these oils an oil that's going to help her to follow through on this path of healing we started with the frequencies. So if I get a yes, then I just have to figure out which oil it is. If you can't muscle test, then you can read, right? So let's say that you had these emotions oils and you're coming up as the number one thing is inner strength. Inner strength kind of comes from, that could be from your self-confidence, like what you believe about yourself. You know, anything about chakras at all, like that could be yellow, right? So you could just kind of say, okay, I'm going to use some cheer. What's it going to hurt? You can't hurt yourself with really pure essential oils because they're always just going to bring you to homeostasis. So, I mean, you could try it. And sometimes when you smell an oil and you're dealing with something emotional, your body will sort of just tell you that's the right one. There's oil sometimes that I smell and I'm like, nope. Like it just doesn't smell right. It doesn't smell the same as it smelled the last time I smelled it. Like it's not for me right now. I really believe that. People used to say that, and again, I used to think that was nonsense. Like, no, it's what's in here that matters.
Here's some woo I'm throwing at you. I'm
Okay.
thinking of how cheer is in my kitchen. I'm thinking of how cheer smells, and I'm feeling an alleviation of some of the dizziness.
Do you know what you did? I'm going to tell you what you did, and this is way out there, but I'm going to tell you what you just did when you did that. Is you broadcasted yourself the frequency of cheer. That's what you just did. I literally have people, so I'm going to blow some minds probably, but I had my mom got really, really sick last fall. She got COVID pneumonia. And she had COVID and then she was fine. Like she was totally fine. And my mom, by the way, is like, she'll kick your butt. Like she's strong, she's really healthy. And she exercises. It doesn't, like I was in labor in the hospital and she was in there doing her daily exercise routine. I'm like, seriously, mom? She's like, yeah, I don't miss my day. I don't miss this. So like, she's in good health. She's 70, but she's in excellent health. So like, she's least likely to get that sick from COVID, right? So she tells me she's sick and I'm like, okay, well, you'll be fine in a few days and whatever. And she sounded fine. And then one day she sent me a text message and it sounded like somebody stole her phone and like was pretending to be her. And she was saying all these doom and gloom type comments. And all this years that I've eaten healthy, taking care of myself was completely useless. And I'm like, who is this? So I called her on the phone and she didn't sound right.
She's channeling my husband, but just kidding. We all have our moments.
And so, yes, of course. Yes, we do. But I mean, that's just so not like her at all.
Right.
She's so
not
like
really
her
like
of like
either. But when he has those moments, I have those like, what are you talking
yeah,
about?
yeah. No, I get that. I've been there too. I've been like, this is crap. Like, I don't, but so she, for some reason, my intuition said, give her a pulse ox, went on Instacart, ordered her a pulse oximeter, sent it to her. And it registered at like 68%.
You
know how you measure like somebody's oxygen saturation?
I have one of them. Yeah.
If I remember correctly, it was like 68% or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And she called me and told me that. And I called my doctor. And she said to me, Deanna, that can only be like a blood clot or pneumonia. She has to go to the emergency room. And I'm like, so I have her medical power of attorney. And so I called my dad and I'm like, you need to take her to the emergency room. And he's like, you told me never to take her there. And so I'm like, but I'm sitting here telling you to take her, like, and I'm the person that told you not to take her. Like I had ingrained that in him, like, let me work on her first before we get crazy. But I wasn't there. I wasn't near her and I didn't know what to do. I hadn't learned about like broadcasting at that time. So I sent her there and anyway, I get in the car with my friend and we start driving to Michigan from Virginia. Like, I'm just going to go to my mom. On the way there, my friend was like, I wonder if ivermectin would help her. Because we kept hearing like this was helping. And my doctor was prescribing it to people. She even prescribed it to me and my husband because we got COVID.
Did you call me and I told you ivermectin on that, like right before that too?
No.
I could have sworn.
I don't know, maybe.
Emailed me or something and I was saying something about it.
It's possible. Because like I knew from other people's experiences and recommendations that they were seeing results with that. And so I'm like, whatever, I'll try anything, if it's going to help her. So I had ivermectin, but it was at home at my house in Virginia and I'd already left. I was already like 2-3 hours down the road. And so I was like, somebody had just taught me about broadcasting. And I'm like, I wonder if that would work. And so I told my husband to go get the ivermectin and I did this thing that I do where I can broadcast. So I broadcasted my mom ivermectin. And so when I got to Michigan, I was like, I should probably get her some ivermectin, right? So I muscle tested that she needed it. And then I was like, okay, well, how many pills does she need? And I kept getting 0. I'm like, how does she need it, but she needs 0? Long story short, all she needed was the broadcasted frequency of the ivermectin. She did not need to even take it. And that freaking blew my mind. Do you know how many times I told somebody, like, you need this oil, and they didn't have it, and so I just broadcast them the frequency? Like, I do. So all around my house, I have these little pieces of paper with people's names on it where I'm broadcasting. So it's just fun. Like, if I could show this to my 10 years ago self, I would be so scared of my future self. I feel like I might as well just wear like a pointy hat and start riding a broom, like it's just funny.
I'm giving you a hat. That's it.
But I mean, you can't argue with the results of it. Okay. So I ran the program on you. Admittedly, 1 minute and 20 seconds is not very much.
Right.
Okay. But like what I would most likely do is run a longer program on you in order for you to experience more of the results. But that's kind of how it works when you're not here. I can still run the program. So I have this little like online Google form, and you can click on it and you can be like, I want your 2-hour balance, Deanna, or hey, I don't want that. I just want you to run this program on me. And then I ask, well, do you want me to send you a crystal? So I have these crystals, and they're very easy to use because they already have the mechanism to put it on a chain. And I send that through the mail. Like it includes the postage and everything, and I'll just ship it to you programmed with your specific issue in there. And if I just ran the Healy, I'm just going off of what the Healy tells me. But if I've done a session, obviously I'm really hand selecting things to put in there, like maybe digital nutrition. I might be putting, the frequency for vitamin C and iron. And I want to be clear that I don't think that means that you need to not use, that you don't need to eat food that has iron and vitamin C in it. Like, I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying that your different things in your body respond to things differently. So like sometimes you need the frequency more than you need the item, and sometimes you need both. If that makes any sense.
Is there a way to check on my first guess or second guess or whatever, because of the fact that we were in Idaho and we all felt fantastic in Idaho, like check the environmental thing because of the fact that we got back to Utah and we noticed.
Yeah, absolutely. Hang on, let me pull it back up and just see if that
check that too, just because.
Yeah.
Sneaking suspicion that
there's a couple
of
different ones. There's like
something in my environment. It might be the location of just the pollution in Utah. It could be anything.
Sometimes it's people. It's also could be sometimes people in your environment, and they're just like you're really picking up on their energy, and it's not working well for you right now. That's all possible. So there's actually there's bioenergetic defense to like protect you from things that and then there's harmony, support, strengthening your bioenergetic. So like there's different ones. So I'm just going to use my little magical skills and see if we can narrow it down a little bit more, because otherwise you would have to check each one, and I'm just going to save time. So I'm getting bioenergetic support is the one that came up, and let's just run an analysis and see if it comes up as something that's. And don't forget, we've already ran that other program. So sometimes when you run something, it actually helps the secondary issue. So that could be a factor as well. So here we go. We're going to analyze you. Okay. So yeah, it came up 64% bioenergetic coherence, and then 46% bioenergetic boost. So I'd have to look at, I don't think I've ever seen coherence come up in this before. So I would need to read a little bit more about what that actually means. I don't know off the top of my head. There are like so many programs in here, you guys, like, and they have different practitioners that are like really good at this, will write a program for something specific. So like there's, if you've ever heard of Rife, like Rife machines, there's Rife programs built in. So the Rife programs are built into this. There is like, I'm just trying to think. There's Bach flower remedies. The frequencies are programmed into here for that. There's, I mean, you name it, it's probably in here. Okay. And so, yeah, so we can run the, accidentally just closed it. So I have to wait for it to reboot, but I'll run that on you. And
is biofrequency is it related to like being around technology too much?
It absolutely can be. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, like when You know what I noticed about my brother and how, by the way, he's doing so much better. And I can't help but think that the regular running of frequencies on him is making a difference, because he's really not doing, the only other thing that he's doing is using, my mom's using essential oils on him. She's doing this protocol called Symphony of Cells on him regularly. But honestly, like, she seems to be getting better results with that since we started doing the frequencies. So I'm running constant frequencies. I reprogram his crystal. It's hard to imagine that there's much else that is at that you could say is causing his improvement. But why was I telling you that? There was a reason. Oh, I noticed that when I was at his house, like, these types of things were coming up for me a lot. Like, bioenergetic stuff was coming up for me, and it was coming up for like everybody I was working on. And then when I would leave and go to the hotel, which was about 40 minutes away, if I ran the program on me, that wouldn't come up. So I started asking. So his wife is actually recovering from breast cancer, and now he has pancreatic cancer. And I mean, they live a pretty healthy lifestyle. So I was like, it just made me start asking questions about what's going on at their house. And I started asking, like, do you guys have a smart meter? Are you really close to a 5G tower? I don't think that we've quite been able to put our finger on exactly what it is, but it's hard to imagine that it's not environmental. Okay. And so, yeah, I definitely think technology, like your Wi-Fi, can be contributing to that. You know, there sure is definitely a case to be said for like turning your Wi-Fi off at night when you're sleeping, give your body a break from that stuff. There's also something to be said for moving out to the middle of nowhere where you don't really get very good internet, and there's lots of trees, you know, that are really very supportive of a healthy environment. So there's things that you can do. But when I'm around crowds of people, that kind of stuff comes up for me.
Okay.
I feel like I'm just really susceptible to the energy of other people. And that's normal for somebody who tends to be in like energy work. They have some level of like empathic, you know.
Well, and other people could be all being reprogrammed energetically with all of, I mean, this is getting a little out there, but their bodies could be also like little towers for 5G, you know, like they could be like being programmed by their own technology too. So that's
true. I mean, if we're all walking around with devices running all the time, you know, and we know that we're energetic beings, like, of course that's affecting it. Yeah. When you're around more and more people and they're all walking around with like, you know, they're all wearing their like fitness watch and carrying around their phone with their Bluetooth activated at all times, of course. Yeah. So is there anything else that you want me to touch on, or do you have any follow-up questions?
No, I think that's it. Like, was there anything else that I could do at home for the is it bioresonance issues or whatever?
Yeah. So you're asking me, is there anything I can do to sort of like protect my energetic field without any technology, without any of these tools that you're talking about? So, I mean, yeah, absolutely. Like, grounding is a really important one. Getting barefoot in the dirt is very important. Going places where you can experience moving water, like a babbling brook or a creek. I mean, all of these things, not kidding you when I say like hug your animals. These are all things that can affect you. I've kind of told you, turn off your Wi-Fi for periods of time. Definitely, like, don't carry your phone. That's we could do a whole nother session on what happened to me from putting my phone right here. I don't even have time to go into that. That was really scary. Don't do that. Don't put it in your pocket. Those are all just like some lifestyle things you can do. But I would say, like, the reason I like essential oil so much is because like anybody can buy like 1 or 2 bottles of essential oil, and then there are certain ones that are really good at protecting boundaries. My favorite one right now is Spanish sage. And I have noticed that when I use that before, like, I go out to events and stuff, I have a much less recovery time. You know, they talk about that introvert recovery time. I don't really think it has anything to do with being an introvert. I think you're so sensitive to others' energy that you're then having to like restore your energy. And so I find that if I can put up it's not like a wall. It's just more of like, I can observe instead of absorb. And I think Spanish sage really helps me with that. Believe it or not, tea tree really, really helps with that. It just kind of like, I actually put it around me like this. I put it on my hands, and then I just like I draw like a circle around myself with my hands. And I put Spanish sage in my hair. And I have found too that at night, I think a lot of the reason why I struggle falling asleep is because it's so quiet that then I'm really able to like realize all the things that are going on around me, if that makes any sense. Because like if you're okay, so I'm not saying I'm like the little boy from The Sixth Sense. I'm not saying that, but like
No.
if he's like at an amusement park riding rides and talking to his friends, he's less likely to like pay attention to the entities around him. So in a way, it's kind of like that when it's really quiet. When it's really quiet, I'm more bogged down and my mind just like is so on high alert. So I found that if I diffuse Spanish sage in my diffuser on my bedside table, that really helps with that mind chatter and that whole thing of like, oh my gosh, remember that time when you were 8 years old and you went up to get your prize and like your whole entire dress flew up? Like that's the kind of stuff that happens to me when I'm trying to go to sleep if I can't shut my mind off.
Same.
And so I just find that like oils are so good for that because like they're so gentle in the diffuser and they're actually like, even though it's for me, I know my husband's sleeping better because I did the Spanish sage, and I know my cat can leave the room with the doors open. And if he's got enough Spanish sage, he can leave. And so I just think that that's a really inexpensive thing that pretty much anybody can do. I just want to say, really make sure you know about which oils you're using, like what brand you're using, because the majority, I have a giant hornet right here. Go somewhere else. This is not your space. Go. And so it does matter. You know, people think like, oh, if I'm not taking it internally, it doesn't matter, but it does matter because you're inhaling things. And most essential oils, I'm sad to tell you, are full of petroleum byproducts. You don't want to be breathing those in. So get some really good education about that. But aside from that, like if you're using good quality pure oils, that's something that you can do at any time. And I even call it oil roofies. Like I got some chick got really mad at me on YouTube about saying that. And she wouldn't have liked that I said chick either. So I'm going to say it again. Chick, chick, chick. But basically, if the general attitude in your home is not a good vibe today, if everybody's bickery or grumpy, you can change that up just by putting like 5 drops of oil in a diffuser in the main part of your house and go rolling about your day. Because you can't force other people to do things, like stop being a jerk, but you can like put that out there and it does have an impact. So that's what I do. I just like, some people, if I smell really, really sagey around you and you don't want to be around me, then that means it's working. It's just working.
All right, Deanna, let's wrap this up. How can people reach out to you for work with the Healy technology or with your other energy work, bioscan?
Yeah, so an easy thing to do if you want to see anything that I'm offering, including my energy work, my Healy, I have one link that you have to remember. As soon as you write this down and save it or memorize it, that's it. It links you to all my other places. So it's called Links in Bio with a Y instead of an I. So it's LYNX, linksinbio.com/oil shares. Okay. Linksinbio.com/oil shares. If you go there, you'll see a thing that says something about frequencies or something like that, energy or frequencies. If you click on that, it'll take you to the form that tells you all the different services, the prices, and then you can choose that and it will notify me once you filled it out, and then we'll book a session for whenever it's convenient for you.
Perfect.
Okay.
And these are
that's how it works. Also, by the way,
easily under $100, right?
Oh yeah, like I'll just tell you, I charge $40 to just run this. And if you want me to program a crystal for the first time, it's $20 because I need to ship it to you. The second time I program it, it's just an additional $10 because it's just like I have to run the thing again. So that's, to me, that's like I've paid people $150 for a session, like one of these machines, because they're trying to pay off their like $20,000 Quest machine. You know, I don't have that. P.S. If you are like, I don't want to have to go through somebody else, I want to have it on my hands and use it on myself in person, you can buy one. And there are always things that are on sale, and you do get a discount if you use my affiliate link. I have an affiliate link because of course I do. I have one for like everything that is cool. Like you probably do too. And so if you go there, you'll see that. It'll tell you how you can get your own device if that's something you want to do. And it is not like you don't have to do a business or anything. It's just like a way of getting it cheaper and benefiting the person who referred you, which I always think is a good idea if you can help somebody else in the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely. So now that I'm a giant weirdo and I put it out there,
Thank you. I'm feeling less confused for sure and
Mhm.
disoriented from the dizziness, and definitely
Oh,
had
good.
some little moments where it just feels like it's lifting. So that's really
Well,
cool.
I'm gonna run a longer. I'll run a longer program on you when we're done here, just because I didn't want to have to sit here and watch. But it's probably most programs I run are about 26 minutes
You know what?
typically.
I might just come back and re-record myself explaining how I feel at the end of 26 hours or whatever it is.
26 hours, 26 days. Yeah, no,
Whatever.
it's 26 minutes. And then I'll just
26.
I'm gonna run that bioenergetic one because I didn't run
Okay.
that at all. I just
Okay.
talked about it. So
All right. And then I'll just brief everybody later today. I'll do a little whatever and clip it onto the end of this video, and then people can see the before
cool
and
beans.
after.
I like it.
All right. Awesome.
All
Thank you
right.
so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, totally. It's always fun talking to you. I mean, we can talk for hours and hours and hours,
Yeah,
and
for
we
sure.
have.
About all kinds of things.
All right. I love you. Thank you
You
everyone for
too.
watching another episode of Wellbeing Wednesday, and have a wonderful week. Bye. Okay, guys. So if you've just finished watching this interview, you know that I was starting to notice some effects already from the Healy. And I was just now editing my video to post today. Last minute, like you do, or like I do anyway, because I'm a master procrastinator. And I realized that I forgot to update you on what happened with the dizziness and disorientation that I had been experiencing off and on. And I don't know if I said it as clearly on the video, but I was bumping into walls for several days. Like I was so dizzy that I had like bruises. I didn't know where they came from because I was falling over and I was like running into the walls. When I was having the interview with Deanna, I had planned it and I had even been putting it off, and we did the interview like 15 minutes late because I was so out of it. There's a lot going on with me. At the end of the call, I got a notice that my father-in-law had passed away. My well, not my father-in-law, my mother-in-law's husband, whatever, what would you call that? So not my husband's father, but my mother-in-law's husband had passed away. And so I was really out of it, and so not really in the best shape to do a follow-up video because my husband was home and his mom was experiencing extreme grief, and we had to tell the kids about it, and there was just a lot going on. Long story longer. Within about 25 minutes after the call with Deanna, she had run the program for the full amount of time, and then she ran the secondary. She talked about the secondary program, but she hadn't run it yet. So when she ran, after she ran that one, all my symptoms of dizziness went away within 20 minutes of that phone call, even with the death and the grief and everything else that was going on in my life at that time on that day. It was gone. I was no longer dizzy. I no longer felt disoriented. I hadn't done anything else. I hadn't even taken my vitamins because it was just such a chaotic day. And because I was so disoriented, I wasn't thinking to take my vitamins. And sometimes when you're dizzy and feeling nauseous, you don't want to swallow any pills because you don't want them to come back up on you. And so I was worried about that as well. Anyway, so I just want to say that I will be getting the crystal from her, and I'm going to have another program run because I totally now wholeheartedly believe in this. And because those symptoms just vanishing with nothing else. I didn't do anything else to my body or to myself physically at that time. Basically, right after she ran the program, the weight of the world fell on my shoulders, and it should have made me worse, but I was actually feeling a lot better, and I was able to face that situation without bumping into walls and feeling disoriented and dizzy on top of it, and not being able to think clearly, because that was another thing, because I was so dizzy and so disoriented. Just talking to Deanna was like, oh my God, my head just feels not like a headache, but just like spinning, unable to concentrate, disoriented. And again, 25 minutes, 30 minutes after our call, it was all completely gone. So I think that says a lot for it. So I will definitely be trying it again. I told Aaron about it like a couple of days later because obviously there was way too much going on over the rest of the day to even explain that I had this call with Deanna and everything. And I'm sure he'll watch the replay and then kind of put all the pieces together because it was really hard for him to focus on what was going on with me when so much was going on for everybody else at that time. And I didn't want to take away from that or whatever. And but it was really powerful. And my husband's like, you're kidding me. Like, get the crystal. Why would you? And my husband, we're all very pragmatic around here, but we have seen results from things that Deanna has recommended over the years. And so he was like, get the crystal, get the programs running. And then if you need any extra energetic support, you have it. And so that's what we're doing. So just wanted to let you guys know. And again, you can contact Deanna through that oil shares link that's going to be in the comments below the Substack, below the YouTube, Odyssey, or wherever you're watching this video. So that was my little honest feedback. I'm not getting paid to share this with you or anything. These are just, again, Wellbeing Wednesday is my opportunity to share the resources of healing that have popped into, dropped into, crashed into my life and have helped me and people that I love and that I want to share with people that I care about as well. And so that goes out to all of you. So thank you again for being a viewer of Wellbeing Wednesday. There will be giveaways coming up soon. Last week I did a small video on YouTube about that. I can't even remember if I shared it yet in the Substack, but I will. But there will be giveaways going forward. Please drop comments to let us know that you're watching this, to let me and whoever I'm interviewing and everybody else know that like this is that you've tried it or you've tried some of the products that I've shared and how much it has helped you in your healing journey. Thank you again and have a lovely day.